This time, it's a story about a hellish engagement party. Take your time so you can answer any sudden, unreasonable interviews. I think the statute of limitations has passed, and it was around this time. So I'll tell you the story of how my engagement party turned into a hellish party. If it were someone else's story, it'd be a pretty funny one. How do you ruin your own party? You must have been pretty determined. It sounds interesting, so tell me more. It was 2 years ago, but I don't want to get in trouble by being identified, so I'll tell the story with a lot of fake details mixed in. The gist of it is the same, though. I was 28, my GF was 30, and we were thinking about getting married. I worked as a planner at a mid-sized entertainment company, and my GF worked in the general affairs department at the same company. She was well known in the company for being a responsible person. She was kind and polite to people in every department, and had a reputation for getting things done quickly when asked. One time, at an after-party of a work drinking event, a girl from my department, who started working at the same time as my GF, invited my GF. Which led to us getting close and starting to see each other one-on-one. It didn't take long for me to fall for her. When I confessed my love to her, and she said yes, we started dating, and she strongly pushed for marriage. I was at a good age too, so I proposed in a typical situation. When we continued dating and decided to get married, it became quite a topic within the company. My co-workers congratulated and teased me with various words like, "You got a great catch, why you of all people, and I'm definitely gonna curse you." I was on cloud 9, but I was about to experience hell. At her own request, it was also decided that she would quit her job before getting married. She decided to go back to college to further her career, considering her future lifestyle changes. We also looked at several venues and decided to have the party at a luxurious restaurant that we'd rent out. Both my GF and I didn't want to invite people from work, just relatives and close friends for a small, intimate party. While preparing for the party, we were still living separately at the time, so we also had to prepare to move in together. Work was busy too since it was the peak season, but those were fulfilling days. So, we started living together and decided on the venue for the engagement party. At her request, we decided to hold the ceremony at a church and submit the marriage registration on the same day. Time flew by with the legal procedures and preparations for the engagement party, and it was finally 1 month before the ceremony. That's when her cheating came to light. The way it was revealed was pretty typical through her phone. My GF and I would usually come home together after work, but sometimes she'd go out saying, "I'm going for a drink with my friends from outside the company." She said it was for farewell parties and stuff. I got a message like that from her that day too, so I decided to go out for drinks with my coworkers. I listened to my coworkers' complaints for a long time, and by the time I was ready to head home, the last train to my nearest station had already left. With no choice, I took the train as far as it would go, then walked the rest of the way home to save money. When I got home, my GF was asleep. It made sense since it was past midnight, but when I looked at her pillow, her messaging app was kept open on her phone. I knew it was wrong, but I peeked out of curiosity. It turned out the person she was messaging was the affair partner. "Thanks for today too. It was really good, right? I want to see you again soon." "Oh, but you can only meet when your hubby isn't around, right? He's not technically my hubby yet. Don't say things that make me feel guilty. But yeah, it's better when my BF isn't around. So we can take our time." That's the kind of exchange they were having. I quietly took her phone, so she wouldn't wake up, and I went out of the bedroom and eagerly reread their messages. It seems affair partner was a friend of hers from college. Their first messages were from almost 10 years ago, but they had continued to meet regularly and have a physical relationship since then. He was her friend with benefits, even before and after she started dating me. For their unusual hobbies, they had videos and photos of them in the act saved on her phone. Usually, no matter what, she absolutely never let me touch her phone. When I jokingly ask, she'd dodge it saying, "I have private info in it, so I can't lend it to you." But I guess this was the real reason she didn't want me touching her phone. Thinking something was seriously wrong, I went to the bathroom and threw up everything I had eaten and drunk that night. In the end, I couldn't sleep a wink that night. The next day was a holiday. My mind was a total mess as my GF greeted me as if nothing had happened. Should I tell her what I saw and break off the engagement, or should I let it slide? As I was thinking that, she dropped a bombshell on me. Actually, I've been feeling a bit off lately, and I thought maybe, so I used a pregnancy test. And then, it was positive. I'm pregnant. Ha! We're getting married, living together, and you're gonna be a dad. Isn't that amazing? My GF was giddy with excitement while I was stunned. For me, who hadn't even sorted out my feelings about her cheating yet, it was the worst news. If I hadn't seen those messages yesterday, I'm sure I would have been very surprised and happy too. A surprise announcement right after finding out about cheating. Were you really the father? If so, it'd be a hassle to break up even if she cheated, huh? I thought the same thing. If my GF was pregnant with my child, it might be hard to call off the engagement even if she cheated, I thought. But I had definitely been using protection. We had discussed when to have kids as a couple. So a certain thought crossed my mind that it couldn't be. I called out to my GF, and we headed to the OB/GYN she had planned to go to that day anyway. I pretended to be happy. When we got tested again, it turns out she was 3 months pregnant. My GF was overjoyed, but I think my facial muscles had died. The female doctor said congratulations, but I was silent the whole time, so she ended up glaring at me. But you know, I wanted to say something to the female doctor. 3 months pregnant was impossible. 'Cause during that time, I wasn't even in the country. My job requires a lot of communication with people overseas. So I have to go on long business trips to places like Singapore and China several times a year. The time she would have gotten pregnant perfectly overlapped with one of those trips. We hadn't even started living together yet. Gimme a break. So my GF, who had been fooling around with her affair partner, might not even realize it, but she and I hadn't even done it during that time. The baby will be born in just over 6 months. Aren't you happy, Daddy? When she said that to me, my GF already looked like something grotesque. I swallowed hard to keep from throwing up again and went home that day. When I was agonizing over what to do and unable to share my troubles with anyone, I got a message on my phone from my bad friend from middle school. Chris. Hey, about your engagement party, I forgot to RSVP, but it looks like I can make it that day after all, so I'm gonna attend. I wanna celebrate. So let's go out for a drink before the ceremony. I'm not in the mood for that right now. Come on, it'll be fine. Or what, is your GF already wearing the pants in the relationship? Saying that, Chris dragged me out drinking. At first, we were just making small talk about recent events and work, but then he said, "So, how are things with the wifey?" Going well? Oh. She's still your GF, right? When he asked me that, my emotions just kind of burst out, and I started crying right there. As Chris looked on in confusion, I kept bawling my eyes out. After calming down a bit, maybe emboldened by the alcohol, I spilled everything to Chris. My GF had been cheating and might even be trying to pin another man's child on me. Ha! What the hell, she's a total bitch. You're seriously gonna marry a girl like that? But you know, if I try to break it off now, won't I be the bad guy? I don't have much proof, and I don't even know who the affair partner is. Nah, leave it to me. I'll help you out, so let's trash that engagement party. Chris grinned and said that. I remember him making the same kind of face when we got scolded by teachers back in middle school. Honestly, I didn't know how to act around my GF when I went home. But I couldn't stand the idea of living with her anymore. I didn't care about potentially being at a disadvantage and having to pay her money. I wasn't thinking about anything. My best bud and I are alike in that way. The deadline was less than a month away, but we set out to do whatever we could to blow up the biggest event of my life. So it begins. Wrecking the big stage you prepared yourself, that's gotta be rough mentally. Nah, I was actually set on making it the ultimate party. After doing various preparations, the day of the engagement party came. After meeting with the restaurant, the engagement party began. Chris was gonna give the opening toast. He had the concierge connect a projector and his personal laptop, saying he'd use them later. Chris stood on the platform in an ill-fitting tuxedo. Ahem, to the groom who has been my bad friend since middle school. And his bride-to-be. Congrats on your marriage. After talking about me and Chris for 2 to 3 minutes, keeping it inoffensive, Chris turned to face where we were sitting. Once again, congrats. I'd like to propose a toast to your respective futures, and to the baby in your belly. Everyone, please raise your glasses. The moment my best friend said those words, surprised voices erupted from the venue, like, oh, and is that so? And then it became a celebratory mood. We hadn't told anyone about my GF's pregnancy until then. Hey, we promised to announce the baby ourselves. Isn't this weird? Don't have him say this kind of thing today. My GF whispered angrily to me, but I ignored it. 'Cause there was an even bigger surprise coming up. As the venue got excited, and the joyful congratulatory mood grew, Chris continued. Ah, you all got your glasses, but why don't we do a little interview about the baby? I, Chris, will be your interviewer. Now then. Let's ask Daddy some questions. Mr. Affair Partner. The spotlight that had been on my best friend shifted to me, the groom. Huh? What? I heard my GF's very flustered voice. But of course, my name isn't Mr. Affair Partner. The venue started to buzz. Did Chris make a mistake with the name? Of course not. Chris jumped down from the platform and started striding toward a certain person, mic in hand. The venue staff also seemed confused by this unexpected situation. I looked at the staff member manning the spotlight and pointed to where Chris was heading. Affair Partner was in the seating area for my GF's college friends. Chris went to the affair partner with the mic, skipping. Okay, perfect. Thanks for the lighting. Now, let's ask Daddy again. What is this? What about me? As being put on the spot by the sudden spotlight and mic, the affair partner looked bewildered. I glanced at my GF and saw her head was down at a 90-degree angle. So, you're the daddy of the baby in the bride's belly, right? How do you feel right now? No, it's not me. What do you mean it's not you? Come on, look at the screen. Saying that, Chris used a remote to operate the projector and slides started appearing on the big screen. It was being projected from the laptop Chris had set up earlier. Everyone, take a look. This is a memory of love between today's bride and Mr. Affair Partner. Chris pressed the remote. Chris's painstakingly gathered evidence appeared on screen. The first image showed a part of their exchanging messages using the messaging app one had discovered. It was kindly annotated to show which statements were from my GF and which were from Affair Partner. Chris read it aloud. Oh no, I might be pregnant? Huh, your period is late? I haven't had my period for a while now, and I bought a pregnancy test at the drugstore today to check. Honestly, I think it's Affair Partner's baby. My BF has been on a business trip for a long time. No way, I can't handle that. Obviously. I'll just tell my BF some BS that I'm pregnant, so don't worry. Voices came from the venue, huh? What does this mean, and oh shit from those who understood. At that point, my GF had fallen off her chair and was sitting under the table, shaking. I guess people try to hide at times like this. The title of the second image was, Found This in Wifey's Photo Folder. As the photos slowly appeared in an animation, screams rose from the venue. Photos of my GF and Affair Partner enjoying a jacuzzi. They weren't wearing clothes, so it was pixelated. There were also photos of Affair Partner swimming with a smile. The images had dates and possible conception dates written on them. For the third image, photos taken by a private investigator we hurriedly hired after starting the party preparations were shown. Since my GF and Affair Partner's rendezvous took place at a hotel after we started living together, it showed them entering and exiting. With details. By this point, I could hear women screaming from the venue. And this was Wednesday night 2 weeks ago. Here's the bride entering Mr. Affair Partner's house. We have the audio from inside too. So let's play it. Chris was having a blast presenting the evidence. I looked at my GF, and she was staring at the screen in shock. Her expression turned grim as the slide progressed to the next phase. That was when evidence was shown that I had been overseas during the time she got pregnant. So as you can see, there's no way the baby in the bride's belly is my buddy's kid. And judging from this situation, you're the daddy. Saying that, Chris pointed at the Affair Partner. The people around the Affair Partner also moved away from him, leaving him alone and flustered. Well, I think that's enough for the toast. Sorry for causing a scene. If anyone still wants to celebrate these two despite all this, well, enjoy yourselves, I guess. Anyway, later. With that, Chris shoved the mic at the affair partner and left the venue. The venue was enveloped in complete silence. As I was wondering what to do, my GF's parents came rushing out. They said something to my GF, then grabbed her from both sides as if carrying her and left the venue. I thought my parents must be disappointed too, so I looked over at their seats, and they were hurriedly talking while eating the food. Knowing my easygoing parents, maybe they weren't that shocked. What kind of mentality do your parents have? I took the mic and said, "Everyone, I'm so sorry you had to witness such an unsightly spectacle after coming all this way. We will be returning the gifts you kindly brought, so we'll provide instructions for that. We'll also pay a bit for your transportation costs. By the way, the after party will still happen." And then, I'm at the entrance of the venue, working on returning the gifts. Since Chris had run off, my other friends helped out, and I was grateful. After that, everyone except my parents went to the next venue for the after party. It seems my GF's relatives had been arguing about something, and all the attendees from her side were gone. Too bad. The after party was hastily changed from a celebration to an engagement cancellation condolences party. All my friends still came. They all consoled me while laughing that it was too much. The conclusion was that it was a fitting punishment for paternity fraud. Chris and I were tossed in the air at that venue, and we drank till morning. Partway through, we got a call from the restaurant saying, "We're considering legal action for making our venue notorious and forcing our staff to deal with irregularities by changing the contents without permission," which sobered me up. The venue was totally not expecting that. By the way, they didn't end up billing us. I was shaking thinking, oh shit, and my friend said, "But you know, couldn't she sue you guys for defamation after all that?" Hearing that in the middle of the after party made me and Chris tremble even more. We drowned our sorrows by making my friend who said that depressing thing drink a ton. I remember suddenly getting weak, then going wild and raising hell till morning, dreading the potential hassle if we got sued. But when my GF and her parents came by later, their attitude was the total opposite of what I expected. Not only that, but my GF had shaved her head. I braced myself but almost burst out laughing when I saw her. "We are truly sorry for what happened. Well, I caused quite a scene too. We also think your anger is justified. We realize she did something unforgivable. I mean, she tried to make me unknowingly raise another man's child and ruin my life. We're considering having her get an abortion. If things settle down, would you give her another chance?" They apologized. I thought, how could such a woman be born from such parents at that time, but now that I think about it, it's even crazier that they still have hope for her. I replied, "I have no intention of marrying her or forgiving her. We have nothing more to discuss. Please leave. I suppose it's impossible after all. We are truly sorry for what she did. She's the shame of our family." Her dad suddenly started crying. In the end, her dad paid for all the party expenses, and I got $10,000 in consolation money. Affair partner also came to apologize with his parents later. He said he'd take responsibility for the child but was breaking up with my GF. He also paid consolation money, but asked me to keep it private, although rumors have already spread quite a bit. I got about $8,000 from him too. It's not bad considering we weren't actually married. After it was all over, Chris and I had a little celebration. When I mentioned the consolation money, he said, "Huh? You would have gotten more if you'd gone through with the marriage? It's not like it would decrease, you should have just married her then." I totally would have, which really soured my mood. What happened after that? Did you get back together with your GF? Do you even need to ask? Come on, read it properly. Of course I didn't get back with her. But I did get an email from her later. I think it was about 6 months after the engagement party fiasco. About the baby, it went to heaven. Now there's nothing in the way of our love. Can we start over? Just the two of us, continuing from that party. Something like that. Give me a break. She also wrote stuff like, "Since the marriage fell through, I tried to go back to my old company, but they turned me down. Job hunting isn't going well. I couldn't go to the college I was planning to attend, and I really regret betraying you. I was grateful to the company. With her track record, there's no way they'd refuse to take her back. Continuing from that party? Did you forget how that engagement party ended since you left partway through? You really want to do a repeat of that? I don't mind, but make sure you invite Mr. Affair Partner too, okay? I replied, and never heard from her again after that. Y'all be careful who you choose to marry too. Did your company say anything about your GF making a scene? I hadn't invited co-workers to the engagement party, but when they'd ask about the wedding date, I'd say we're not getting married. We broke up and then I'd get bombarded with questions. Of course I was treated as a weirdo too, but among the guys, many were understanding, saying revenge for paternity fraud was only natural. You're lucky to have good people around you. I like how you don't care what others think of you. And that was the story of how a homie engagement party got trashed 'cause she tried to pin a kid on him.